I'm just gonna be holding this like a pen, I guess. It's a little too on the nose. Is it too on the nose? Maybe. We gotta make it obvious, you know? So, we need to talk about Bane's coming out. Obviously, I posted about it when I heard about it. Um, Slay, obviously. Come on now. I have been singing Bane's praises for a year, literally ever since I found out about his existence. You have Bain, who has gone viral basically for his performance on Build Up, and you're not gonna pick him to be the ace in any of the rounds? Toss Bain in the pit. Come on, he can do it. I believe in him. He's my bias, so I'm obviously a little biased there, but and truly the fact that he is able to live as he says, authentically, live his truth, whatever you want to call it. The relief and joy that is so evident uh on his face nowadays, if you will, is wonderful to see, truly, as a fan, as an only bee, as specifically a fan of Bane. My bias, obviously, because he's iconic. I truly, if you are new to Just Be, if you're a queer K-pop stan who, you know, is curious about Just Be because you know that there's an openly queer member now, some recommendations. Chest is quite popular these days. I would definitely listen to that. You are the one I can't forget. 'Cause for you I will be ended. My favorite Just Be song is Paper Plane. And I feel that, especially in the vocals department, it really shines quite well. So that would be my personal recommendation. But welcome to the fandom if you decide to stay. I suffered through Road to Kingdom Ace of Ace partially for Just Be. I am willing to put myself in emotional harm to watch a show I wouldn't otherwise watch for for Bane, for Just Be, all of that. To be fair, when I watched Build Up, I didn't know who he was. Like, I fully discovered him through Build Up, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I made a video on that back in the day. Like a river, like a river. And a lot of coverage that I've seen about people discussing Bane's coming out, in a lot of it, it's just kind of about like how he feels, how he's doing, what was the reaction, all of that stuff, which is nice. Obviously, it's good to know. I want to take the opportunity to actually properly discuss the potential outcomes of having a member of a K-pop group come out as gay. Um, and I'm going to be speaking on my perspective. Personally, uh, I came out for the first time when I was quite young. I was like 12. Uh, and I have been technically like coming out for 9 years now, which is crazy. Like, it's not a once and you're done situation. Like, there are still people that I'm not out to, and that can be exhausting. Like, again, I've been doing this for 9 years, and even in a society, we live in a society, you know, I live in Canada. Gay marriage has been legal here my entire life, which is cool. That's great. it very much isn't something that I take for granted. Queer rights are under threat in a lot of places, even where you would think that that wouldn't even be a question. Pride needs to exist. We need to protect our community. We need to look out for each other because you never know, you know? And even then, it's not legal everywhere. I'll be talking from the perspective of someone who, comes from a place of privilege in that regard. South Korea is, obviously hasn't legalized gay marriage, probably doesn't intend to soon, unfortunately. I don't think a K-pop idol coming out changes that. And you can go on and on about like, oh, Korean society is very conservative and it finds the idea of progress to be hostile and threatening. You could make the case for that. I can't speak on that. I don't know about the culture necessarily. For context, obviously, during the LA stop of Just B's tour, Bain came out to the audience during his solo performance. This is after he performed Born This Way in Japan, Born This Way by Lady Gaga. He had also basically begged the company to let the group go on tour. And considering he's been able to do these performances, it's safe to assume that like the company like was in agreement to for him to come out to the audience, right? This isn't something that he did that completely surprised the company or the members. Now, having seen interviews he's done, and I'm paraphrasing here, but like he hadn't specifically decided to do it there and hadn't like necessarily told anyone. It was just this feeling of like, okay, it's a good time. I'm about to do my solo performance. Like, let's do it, right? Um, which is very much a feeling I relate to. It's difficult to describe, but like queer people talk about self-confidence a lot. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm confident in myself, I believe in myself. It's this like actual comfort knowing that you are safe with someone. In this case, with the fans of the LA audience. Cause like this is LA, having a homophobic audience at your LA stop would be very surprising. But yeah, I had been looking at Bane's solo stages throughout the tour just for fun because I knew that he was doing solo stages and I know that he was doing, he was doing Born This Way and he was doing like the songs by like the divas, and I wanted to see it and it's good. It's good. Please watch it. Um and I had actually had Bane on my lock screen as like one of the moments from the specifically the show in Japan. I didn't know that he was gonna come out, and now I still have him on my lock screen, and it's like 3 weeks later. And that's great. I love that. I love that for me. I love that for him, and I'm probably gonna keep that lock screen for at least for Pride Month. We'll see after that, but like I am a Bane stan. I have been a Bane stan. This video is an excuse for me to say how much I love him. Great. Cool. I want to talk to people who aren't fans of Just B, who aren't only B, that's the fandom name. About like why this group specifically, why was Bane from Just B one of the first like idols currently active in a group to come out publicly? I'm adding a lot of words. I'm aware that Bain isn't the first K-pop idol to come out. Um, I'm aware that there have been openly queer idols and there continue to be, and there are also openly queer idols who, because of their identity, don't really have access to opportunities. And I think that that is obviously unfortunate and that's obvious discrimination. Personally, I think like the fact that Blue Dot Entertainment, their company, had allegedly considered disbanding Just Be before combining them to create the Crew One. for Road to Kingdom Ace of Ace, combining them with ATBO, because like ATBO and Just Be, both of their companies are technically under IST Entertainment, so like logistically it's kind of easier for them to merge the groups, etc., etc. I at the time thought that the crew one was going to be like, I didn't think if I thought that they were going to be permanent or not. I don't remember. Allegedly, Blue Dot was the one who was responsible for the split back into the two groups, ATBO and Just Be. Um, this is all alleged. I don't actually know. But the fact that the group might have been thinking about disbandment, this would have been last year, right? Last fall would have been. I mean, the crew one was announced last summer. I think knowing that might have like maybe lowered the stakes a little bit for members of the group to be more open with the fans, because like, if your future is uncertain, you might be more comfortable to come out to your fans. I don't know. This is all speculation. So why Bain? uh Bain himself, although he was born and raised in South Korea, he is very much inspired more by American queer culture, even than Korean queer culture, um, where like he cites Lady Gaga as an inspiration. He talks about all the divas. He loves performing their songs. It's great. I don't know if I've made this joke on the channel, but like there was this joke of like Bain only performs songs by female artists in Taemin of like he very much, respects women and like likes those kind of performances that like um he's not trying to be super like mask or macho necessarily. Which is great. Love that. Yeah, you got to keep them guessing. But there is an aspect of like Korean culture, as far as I understand, of like not wanting to inconvenience other people, not wanting to step on people's toes necessarily, like making yourself smaller. Like it's a more collective society than like at least the US. I don't know what the case for Canada would be. I still think we're pretty individualistic, but less we're not as much of like we're not jerks about it. um Compared to Americans, not Koreans. That culture of not wanting to inconvenience other people with like your truth and yourself doesn't seem to be something that Bain is necessarily affected by or internalizes. um I could be wrong on that. And obviously, like even with my experience of like being out for 9 years, there were absolutely moments where I like internalized this idea of like people deserve to know, like I owe it to them to be honest to them and stuff like that. I imagine for someone who has like very much a like parasocial fan base, you would also have that emotion of like I owe it to these fans that like feel that they're so close to me that like I'm still not open with them, and you would like carry that guilt with you. I think that that is wrong. I don't think that that is something that you should be guilty about. It truly is. It's your time, it's your journey. And to be fair, that does seem to be something that Bain understands. In terms of the reaction of the public, luckily the reaction to Bain's coming out has been positive so far, as much as I've seen. Obviously, you're going to have these people who like spend their lives being homophobic on the internet for like no reason, and it like becomes quickly obvious that they are neither fans of Just Be nor fans of K-pop nor people with the will to live. At a certain point, like you can brush that off. I have openly queer on the internet for a while. I haven't gotten any shit for it. I have gotten people who will straight up don't notice that I am queer, even though I would like to think that it's very obvious, but I very much do also get that experience when I'm out and about in the real world. I'm still a victim of microaggressions. I still hear bullshit. Being queer, being genderqueer as well. Canada is not as much of a utopia in that regard as you'd like to think it is. Unfortunately, obviously, every culture has its issues. The world has its issues. There might be an assumption that like international fans will automatically be more accepting than Korean fans. I'd say that's not necessarily true. There are countries with like much worse stigma around the queer community than even South Korea. And there are fans that exist in these places. There are, hyper religious fans that think that that is an excuse for them to impose their religious ideas on their idols. And I think that's as problematic as people who like genuinely think that they're like in a relationship with some of these K-pop idols. Like, it's not cute. You're not. Stop being delusional. Grass. You need to touch grass. All of you. Grass. Like, not to mention, there is, or at least there was, a KCON in Saudi Arabia. I personally am not comfortable going to Saudi Arabia, like, no tea, no shade, but, like, there are cases in which K-pop idols need to go to some of these places for concerts, for KCON, for, like, and, I think an idol considering their own safety, I think the company considering their safety, I think some of that is fair, some of that is valid. A lot of Western artists, also have to go to these countries, also have to go to these places where it's like literally illegal to be queer. Like that is not that can be scary. I think having an attitude of like I can stand my ground. I can go to these places where I won't be accepted, and I have a right to be there, and I have a right to be myself and to stay myself. I think that that's something that an attitude that you really have to have. Gaga, when you go to Russia, they may arrest you. I said arrest me. I don't give a fuck what people say. In terms of actual impact on the industry, will Bain's coming out change the industry? No. I think there are groups and have been not only groups but like idols who are most likely queer. Like we're not blind, but like don't come out for a multitude of reasons. I don't know the specifics, so this is again speculation, but like with many companies having like a no coming out clause in their contracts for their idols. I think that is like obviously like there's no freedom of speech, which I know freedom of speech is very much like an American concept, and I'm not even American. Like we also in Canada have freedom of speech laws, to be fair, but like I think infringing on someone's right to yeah, this is where Korean culture might not agree with me. But look, people have it should be a human right for people to express themselves. And I think it's pretty dangerous to have contracts that obviously it's not just about not coming out. Like there's so many idol contracts that like don't even let them have like a life and a personality and like a sleep schedule, like stuff like that. Like obviously there's a lot of aspects of the K-pop industry that are inhumane, and I think that if really there are going to be openly queer idols in the industry, I think it's important to also remember the other human rights of K-pop idols that might be infringed upon on a regular basis. I understand why the no coming out clauses exist on a surface level at least. The fear of like causing controversy and stuff, even just dating bans and stuff, and like for obviously, straight K-pop idols too. Um, I think like Sunghan from Rise, like that whole situation was something that if an industry is going to react that way to someone who was in a straight relationship before debut, it's difficult to imagine how they would react to a an idol who like had a queer relationship in the past. Which funny I should say that queer erasure is a really funny thing. If that were to happen, and there's a good chance that it has happened, people would literally just go, "Oh no, that's his friend. That's her friend. They were roommates."
Oh my god, they were roommates.
I'm not blind to that. I'm not dumb. Like that would probably just be the thing. Like would but then like as soon as, this idol has like this boy K-pop idol has like a girlfriend, it's like, oh, what? What? There's a bit of a weird double standard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying like straight K-pop idols are oppressed, but like there is this weird like energy that like you probably wouldn't react this way if you found out that this idol was queer or wasn't in a queer relationship. Like I know that it all comes down to like parasocial relationships and like people feeling entitled to K-pop idols as people, which they're humans. You're not entitled to even their time or attention. I think in a perfect world, not only would the industry allow for queer K-pop idols to be accepted and welcome, I think in a perfect world that would also include them being allowed to date, period. I think it would also include them having, a reasonable wage and things like that. Ooh, scary, scary political ideas. Ooh. If you're going to talk about queer K-pop idols existing, an intellectual, am taking queer theory right now as a class, and so much of queer theory is intersectional. And I think a lot of this situation can't just be, oh, Bain came out. That suddenly means domino effect, like this idol is going to come out, this idol is going to come out. There are other things that should happen first. The industry should be comfortable at the idea of idols dating, right? And a lot of that, at least in my understanding of how things happen in the K-pop industry, is extremely slow to happen. Progress is slow to happen. And if it isn't slow to happen, it usually happens because it's like a member of an incredibly popular K-pop group, if that. Like, there's definitely a dichotomy between the small and the big companies in this, that like the small companies are gonna be a lot more open to their idols being queer and or dating as opposed to the bigger companies, right? And now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Talking about, double standards still. Uh, it is a little silly to see that like a lot of K-pop idols are like allowed to act in, let's say, like BLs specifically, um but they're not allowed to come out. I think that is a very strange double standard, that I think if they're allowed to literally, like if a male K-pop idol is literally allowed to kiss men on camera, let them also come out. You know what I mean? Like that seems quite sensible to me. But like I understand that words have power. Obviously, like as someone who was in the closet for many years, I understand that words can hold a lot of weight. Coming out can be a big step that is maybe even riskier than just like taking some coin and kissing another man. Like I don't know. I really don't know. Obviously, there's a double standard in terms of like gender. I think opportunities to do even like GLs, to do like sapphic shows and movies and whatever, like don't drop out of the sky for K-pop idols in the way that they can for the guys. To be fair, there is, you know, K-pop idol content that is queer. I like watching a lot of it, like, and I'm not even getting into specifics, like, there is actually multiple. Again, there are queer K-pop idols, like, I'm aware that these things exist, and I think that there is still this feeling of, like, there's a line being drawn somewhere, and that line is blurry, and, like, to what extent are there actually a lot of queer people in the industry, but they're just not allowed to say, I'm gay. I understand that that can be frustrating for some because you need to hear the words, you need to get confirmation. But like, I truly feel the same pre and post Bane's coming out. Like, I'm happy that he's happy. That's it. I don't need to know that he is gay, that he is queer, that he is proud of being LGBT. I'm aware that there are like that can have a positive influence on people. I'm aware that it sets a nice example for other idols who want to come out. And obviously like he was inspired by other idols who like have come out in the past. Like I get that. Um I am a little uncomfortable by the fact that it does feel like it's being buried a little. I don't know how much Korean media has covered Bane's coming out. And that I would be curious if I have any Koreans in my audience. Feel free to comment on that because I'm quite curious as to what like the local coverage was, if there was any, and like yeah, just what it was, right? Because I think people are very matter of fact, like oh, Bane came out at his LA show, cool. I can imagine that it didn't necessarily like open the door to further discussion. The last thing I wrote on my script, um, I hope Bane can have a good future. Obviously, I hope he'll be happy. I hope Just B can have a good future. If you are a new only B, welcome. You know, obviously, give all the members love and attention. Uh, Sungwoo's very fun and goofy, and DY is great, like a great artist, and has been more creatively involved in their stuff. Gunu's great. He's a lad. Obviously, all the members of Just Be, whether or not they are queer themselves, are allies of the queer community. You know, for Only Be who have been here for a while and are queer slash, you know, new queer fans coming in. I hope that you guys can feel welcome with a group, right? That being said, I am also a lion. Like, I'm not a stranger to K pop groups being a home for queer K pop fans. That's another case where it's like, at what point can you tell queer stories and fans will still think that you're queer baiting, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Real people can't queer bait. But also, like, at what extent will people believe that you might be queer until you actually say the words, right? Like, I do think that some of it, some of the understanding that the people around you might be part of the community, some of that is literally just normalization, like normalizing queer people existing and destigmatizing like either queer relationships or queer people, and even like not being hostile to people who are different. These are all good stepping stones to having a more welcoming society. It is a little baffling to me that like post underground idol by only one of post X Love's debut that we're still like there are still so many K-pop idols that like haven't specifically said that they're queer. And again, they shouldn't need to. We shouldn't be pressuring anyone to come out. I think if people can see queer stories for what they are, I think if people can see something that is maybe implicitly queer and to understand that there's probably a story being told there, I think that's valuable, right? Like you shouldn't have to be specifically told that something is queer. To be fair, I feel that queer people understand each other in terms of like there are artists that like I suspected were queer before they came out. That wasn't a thing of like, oh, I know a secret. It's just a thing of like I interpret their art for what it is because their art is queer and I say I understand that that's my interpretation of things and I understand that everyone has their interpretation. My interpretation might be correct. I may never know that. I need to be comfortable with acknowledging that. Acknowledging that I might I won't always be right. There might be times where I am. The last lessons I want to leave for you guys. Um one, do not pressure any celebrity to come out. That should be pretty standard. To like recognize when you're in a situation of privilege, especially in terms of like if you're tempted to say like, "Oh, why aren't K-pop idols like comfortable being themselves and living authentically and stuff like that?" I think recognize the position of privilege that you are coming from, that like and even someone like me, even someone who has had gay marriage be legal their entire life, I think there are still things that I can't take for granted. I can't assume that life will be easy as a queer person because I exist in the life that I do. Not only do I like the privileges that I have, but I also want the privilege of visiting other places and not like live in fear. There's a lot of people who like will see a celebrity coming out and because of that will find the courage to come out to their family, the people they're close to. Um I've never had that experience personally. Uh if you have, you know, comment on you can comment on how that was and what it was. I think that some things can like flip a switch so to say that you can have like an aha moment of like, "Oh, I've been in the closet for a while and like, you know what? Today's the day," right? Like I described earlier. And I think like watching a particularly emotional clip on the internet of someone's coming out can do that. It's fair. But don't pressure yourself to come out because your favorite artist has just done it. I think the closet is very subjective. And I think especially cishet people want to paint it as something that is black and white. But there is a big gray area there that like I would consider myself to be fully out and fully open with who I am and comfortable in that. And yet there are still situations in which people don't know. I can appreciate where someone is in control of their own story and is able to say it when they're comfortable doing so. I don't want to see people being pressured into it. I also don't want to see situations in which clearly someone wants to and clearly someone is trying to, but that there are forces outside of their control not allowing them to do that. At a certain point, if I see this shit in an idol's like just this in an idol's Instagram, at a certain point what will it take for you to take that flag out from behind you and just wave it in someone's face? I just hit my laptop. I don't like seeing situations where I feel that someone has to there's it's the walking on eggshells, right? Which is so common to see with K-pop idols. There are things that they clearly want to say but literally can't. To me, that is ethically and morally wrong, but I know that that might be a cultural difference. That might be a difference in opinion. There are discussions to be had for another day. And I don't know if I will make another video if I can think of things. I don't even know if I'll post this one, but thanks for listening. And celebrate queer moments. Celebrate queer moments. The ones that happen around you, maybe even create your own. You know? Uh live live your lives. You're beautiful, you're born this way, all that good stuff. Um, Pride Month is in 2 weeks, so, but, you know, you're queer every day of the year, 24/7. So celebrate yourself. Have a slice of cake. I don't know. I love you. I appreciate you. Bye.